do is, I was asked to convene a conversation from a mentee's perspective about mentoring. And so I figured there are lots of mentees around, but we also have lots of options. So I wanted to just invite us into a conversation with one another about what some of our experiences have been. How many of you are familiar with the World Cafe process? Okay, just two of you. So the World Cafe, let me just give you a little context and then we'll enter into our conversation. The World Cafe started in about 1995. It actually was a dinner party that happened that was being hosted, and the plans had to change a little bit because it rained outside, and then they found themselves sitting around tables and having really relevant conversation. And what happened is, as a result of that conversation, they learned something, that they were able to have generative conversation and actually take care of some real poignant things. You know, they were able to address some real key concerns. And so what they learned is that working together or talking together, that they were wiser as a result of those conversations. So as we think about master class for mentoring, I mean, there's no one person that is the possessor of all of that information, but we are wiser together. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts, in essence. And so what we wanted to do is just begin to talk about your experience and how that experience may correlate to someone else's experience. And I'm glad to see my sisters here, because what we are aware of is that when it comes to ministry, often we may not have the mentors that we need. Yes. But not to make it about, a gender thing, but often if a young man, in particular the Baptist church, says, hey, I want to preach, he's often, taken up and, provided for, and given the robes, taken out to the cigar bar, taught how to do the things the right way. And, the sisters can get a little envious about that, because even when we have women in ministry, we seem not to have the resources of energy to want to take up with other sisters. So I'm glad to see some of the examples that have been here. A conversation with Dominique and Dr. T today. There's some other conversations like that. So, it's good to see that God is moving by God's Spirit throughout the land and providing more opportunities. So I wanted to share just kind of that opening, and so I want us to feel free to kind of commingle. We will address 3 questions: the blessings, the challenges, and the opportunities. I want to show you a quick video about a mentoring example. Some of you may know these good folks in the video that will be coming up, and then we'll move into our generative conversation around some of these mentoring concepts. If I can just have you draw your attention to the screen for a moment now.
The interaction with another generation can always be beneficial. It's mind expanding, it's heart expanding. I find myself inspired by Gray's way of exercising his own vocation. I'm energized by it.
Luther kind of took an interest in me. From day one, he would say, Greg, we want you to be successful. Not successful here, we want you to thrive. By focusing in on what it means to be a whole person, not just a good teacher. He modeled what mentoring is and should be.
Our relationship with Greg has always affirmed that it was okay to be me, whether it was here in an academic space or at church.
I live by the philosophy that the work that we do today will affect my great-great-grandchildren who are not yet born. As I have conversations about vocation and discernment and activism and how you incorporate your education into community engagement with Alicia, it's affecting my great-grandchildren.
There's such a mutuality in the growth and the sharing that is really helpful and reciprocal on both ends.
I don't think you get to build a community just through ideals, or just through massive change. I think you get through to beloved community through both personal change and interpersonal change.
It's hard to think about the very institutional ways that we need to change our world, but it's much easier, more easy to digest if you think about it just one person at a time. How can I put myself in a position to create space for you to feel empowered and have a sense of agency to change the world around you, just one person at a time?
I seek to help other folks who are different to occupy the fullness of their gifts, to take residence in their uniquely God-given ability.
Just think about the ways in which that really not only expands the ways in which we create change, but it really becomes exponential. It would be absolutely selfish to not create that same space for other people. To give back to someone else, another young Christian leader, in the same ways that were given to me, is the ways in which we continue this kind of snowball effect of enacting change in different areas of the world.
So what you saw here was 3 different types of mentoring relationships. You had Luther Smith. How many of y'all are familiar with Dr. Smith from Cameron? Luther Smith, and then you had Gregory Ellison, Dr. Gregory Ellison, who's now a faculty member at Candler in pastoral care theology. And then you have Alicia Gordon, who's a Candler alum, now working for the United Methodist Women in New York. And all of these lives have been a result of touch points from Dr. Smith on down. And if you've ever had a conversation with Dr. Smith, it's the most amazing conversation in the world, because here you, in his person, you have someone who's invested in pouring himself out into other people, on behalf of other people, for the sake of other people. He talks to you about the tricks of the trade. He talks to you about the things that he learned, the things that he regretted doing, and then gives advice about how to live more fully into your own personal sense of ministry. And so these are some of the things that are helpful for us as we think about how we are poised to be menteed or to be mentored, and then how in turn we become mentors for others. So we have to pay it forward. We have to take the same investment that has been given to us. Sometimes that may not have been the best investment. Amen. But then we learn from that experience, and in hopes that we might do something better with the next person. So sometimes it's bittersweet, but we can take it and still move forward with it. So I want to give us a couple of guidelines about this World Cafe process. Before you have a sheet of paper, you have some Post-it notes, you have some markers, and then you have the guideline sheet. And so this is designed for you to speak with your heart and mind, contribute your thinking, focus on what matters, listen, as folks are sharing. As folks are sharing, if there's some images that come up before you that you want, maybe you're a doodler, maybe some people, do graphic facilitation naturally. You may draw out what some of these things look like. We start talking about the opportunities, might be a dollar sign, it might be other things, it might be other benefits that we've experienced. We invite you to listen together for patterns and insights and deeper connections. We want you to link and connect ideas. How is what you're sharing and what I'm sharing a key theme? And then later we'll harvest those themes and place them on the wall here with the correlating Post-it notes. And then, but more importantly, 2 things I would say. Slow down. We're not on the fast track here. We have time for this conversation because there are fewer people. Thanks be to God for that. But if there were more people, which is why we have segmented into 4 chairs. But also have fun. Be generative. And so I ask that as we share some of these stories, all of these stories aren't going to be happy stories. Amen. And so as they are sensitive in nature, we ask that you honor the other person, and what happens in this room stays in this room. We don't have permission to share other people's stories, because all of us are impacted in some way by these narratives. And so working within denominational context can be a little sensitive. So we want to make sure that we set each other up for a win. Amen? Amen. Sister, I want to invite you to sit at the table with people because you can't have a conversation with yourself. You could. It may not go well. Or it could be the best thing that's ever happened. So these are the guidelines, and so I want to invite us into this conversation. Ernest and I had this conversation. This is a conversation that the AoP is really concerned with. They want to know how can we better posture ourselves organizationally. You know, I have the privilege of serving on the AoP board. How can we position ourselves to really talk about mentoring and provide maybe some mentors or point people to good mentors? So we will take this information and glean this information in hopes that we might be able to help other pastoral leaders, congregational leaders, denominational leaders to be better mentors, or even to maybe create a mechanism by which we might be able to explore mentoring in a deeper way. Often we come here and we have mentors, but our mentors may not be able to travel with us for whatever reason. And so, you know, I don't know if you're working alongside with your mentor as you develop your sermon, but if you're not, you know, who are those people who might take the time to do that with you, especially if you needed it. And so these are some things to think about. So we are poised to talk about how these experiences have been experienced through your own experience. Does everyone here have an experience of a mentor relationship of any sort? Okay, good. All right, so we're going to work in rounds. And so what happens is you need to identify who's going to host your table. So there's going to be one host. The host doesn't get to leave the table. What will happen is at the first round, we will have a conversation about this for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll change and cross-pollinate our conversation. And then the host is tasked with conveying to the next guests that come to his or her table what you all talked about, and then you unfold the next question together. And so together we'll be building off of some of these concepts, and then I'm going to invite you to identify what are the key themes, and you'll write them and then place them up here so that we can use them as a learning mechanism. So it may be a little tricky if you know each other really well, you know each other's stories really well, but maybe you haven't had the time to unpack this question. So it may be fine. So if you're among friends, that's fine. But as you develop these questions, determine who's going to be the host, and we'll get moving. So our first round is going to be, what blessings have you encountered through mentoring? What blessings have you encountered? Uh-oh.
Oh, that's what.
Oh, did it go away, Lord?
Spoiler. That was quick. That was
Right.
a quick round.
Session over. Let's see, hold on. That's a white one. No, it's not. Okay. Go to the source. That's what yellow thing.
Yes.
There we go.
There.
Okay, yes, and maybe I'll stop making my phone again. What blessings have you encountered through your mentoring experience? And, or, you know, if you haven't had those blessings, what blessings would you like to have encountered? So let's talk with one another for about 10 minutes or so, hash it out. Someone needs to kind of like be the scribe and the host of the conversation. So we're just going to be writing down the things that you shared. So I'm going to play some lovely music as you would have at a lovely dinner party, and then we'll go from there. Now you start bringing, someone can bring them up to the table.
Attached to it, just give me
Oh, Lord.
I said, I'm no longer about church, it's not anymore. I don't try.
We have just a few more minutes.
Yeah, because even though we were this year, with my pastor, we know my pastor was not my man towards because of the fact that she does and all that, prophetic and all of that. Studying on one pastor was Baptist. Well, it's crazy because he's but you know the problem is being prophetic talking about this church.
Right, challenges, there should be lots of challenges. It is
It's
been-
not easy because, especially because we're, you know, they don't want you. It's like give us a little, but don't go all the way.
And while you're putting your post-its up, get a chance to just kind of review what other things have been said.
Oh yeah, I was telling me that
AoP style. Right.
because my friends are intercessors and this, and because they don't come from the same denomination.
All right.
I wasn't choosing.
That's our charge.
I was gonna choose a license over my family.
Who's king?
I'm glad you did.
Alright, cause like I said, it was literally next week.
So, just quickly before we all kind of move away, any key themes, any thoughts, any insights, anything that wants to be spoken into the room about what you gleaned from your conversation with a variety of cross sections of folks in this room? What are some of the key themes that showed up for you?
Time.
Time?
So
Yeah.
it'll either be a blessing or a curse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The time.
Yes.
So
either
making
you
the time?
have the time or you don't, and that's what will make the difference of a mentorship relationship.
Okay, gotcha. And your experience has there been time made, or, and is that a reciprocal thing, or is it one-sided?
Right, yeah.
But the person with the.
Does the person have time, or
Yeah,
when
they
they
don't.
tried to get with you, you didn't have the time, which,
They didn't have time.
okay, the time. So the time and investment, okay?
Mhm.
Any other themes that have come up?
You can go.
I think that what I noticed is that some things that were blessings can become challenges, and even some of the things that are challenges, in some respects, they can almost birth opportunities. And so it's almost kind of, but you kind of have to have all three
Yeah.
for a healthy, or I guess for a healthy space to be. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost like if deers never die, people, like when you think about hunting,
Yeah.
that may be a bad example, but there would be an overpopulation, and then people would be able to drive their cars,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
such an overpopulation.
Okay. So each one gives way to the other?
Yeah.
Okay. Any others?
South Carolina.
Oh, you can go for it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, the whole idea of identity, like maintaining. I think the one thing that we said when I was with Richard and what's your name? When I was with Richard, Cody was saying, like men being, mentoring without mirroring or your identity, keeping your own identity
That's right.
intact without without being changed or altered. Like I said, cultivating without changing, because I was saying how, like, if somebody sees, as if you're an apple seed, they see that you're an apple, but it's like, I want you to just teach me, the growth process to help me become that apple, but don't try to make me into an orange when I learn my spiritual DNA or my DNA at all cannot literally become anything but an apple. So just give me the tools needed to make sure that I evolve into the apple that God's called me to be, not the orange or the banana that you want me to be or that denomination wants me to be.
That's, oh Lord, have mercy. Yes, that's real. Anything else before we dismiss? Okay, well, give yourselves a hand for Thank you. And so I hope what you will come away with is not only the things that you've shared in and among your peers, but also the fact that mentoring happens in a myriad of ways. And there is no sole expert on mentoring, obviously, because we've all had some challenging experiences, we've had some blessings, and we've had some opportunities, but there's no one way. And so by bringing together ourselves as a collective to talk about those experiences, we're able to learn so much more from the breadth of our experiences and opportunities and challenges that we might be able to do it better, pay it forward to the next generation that will come looking for us to give us some guidance to that end. So thank you all for your participation. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you were able to take something away that will help you on your journey or encourage you on your journey. So blessings, and I think you have preaching circles next, and then afterwards dinner. So breathe, hang in there, and we'll get together tonight for the gospel slam. So blessings upon you. Thank you.
Thank you.